everyone. Welcome to the Silly Points podcast. As you might have noticed, I will be hosting today's podcast today. Suraj is missing. It is finals week here at UC Berkeley, so unfortunately, most of our current crop of Cal cricket is busy studying. But we have invited two of our alumni for this Ashes episode. Welcome back, Dinesh. It's been a minute. You all are probably familiar with Lakshya. How are you guys doing? Dinesh, how have you been? It's been a minute.
Rishi, I'm good. It's good to be back. Been watching a lot of cricket in the meantime, but honestly haven't been talking about it very much. So it is good to be back on Silly Points today.
Yeah. How are you, Lakshya? How you been?
Yeah, I mean, I'm writing the final exam for the course that I teach at Berkeley, and by writing, I literally mean making the final exam. So we just finalized that. So hopefully that process goes smoothly.
Nice. Yeah. Oh yeah, for people who don't know, Lakshya is graduated in 2019, but he's also a teacher. He's also a professor now at UC Berkeley. So yeah, he really has it all. But yeah, so I think we're just gonna cover that. We're probably gonna cover the first test, talk about the upcoming day-night test match. Obviously, Australia beat England pretty easily by 9 wickets. Match ended like after lunch quickly on day 4. Travis Head was man of the match with a brilliant counter-attacking 150. David Warner and Martian scored runs as well, and then I think all the Australian bowlers, led by the new captains Pat Cummins, all got wickets. Pat Cummins got a 5 in the first innings. Lyon got that 400th wicket. And England, not too many positives I'd say for England. Just a bit of fight in the second innings by Root and Milan, but both fell short of 100, which led to a collapse after. Collapse on day 1 too, where they were bowled out for like 140, with Rory Burns getting out first ball of the series. What are like your guys' major takeaways from the match? Do you think like the 5-0, 4-0 we predicted is still on? Do you see any hope for England?
I think if England's got more hopes here, and I guess I'll lead off by some of the things that I did perceive as positives in the way England played. If they have if they have a good chance to take a couple of matches off here, it's going to hinge on the next match being the pink ball day-night test. Conditions that we think are probably going to favor Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad more than the rest of the series will. And I think if they're to reinfuse some morale there, that's going to be a big deal. But there were plenty of positives, I think, in their bowling. I was generally impressed by how Mark Wood bowled in the first innings. He showed plenty of discipline. He managed to keep up a pretty long spell and keep his pace up, and he was in among the wickets. So I think that's a big positive looking at their bowling. Ollie Robinson was impressive in both innings as well. I think he showed the value of generating a little bit of movement, even if he's not the quickest, and staying accurate. So
yeah. Dinesh, did you watch our last podcast by any chance?
I don't think I'm fully caught up. No.
All right. I was gonna say, like, I told Suraj we need to delete a part. I said Ollie Robinson's garbage and he'll get whacked in Australia.
Yeah, it didn't turn out too well, did it? I think honestly, England did not lose this match because of their bowling,
Exactly.
their lead bowlers. I think they lost it because their number 4 and 5 bowlers are very unreliable to begin with. Jack Leach got hammered all over the park. Honestly, the Gabba has never been that great for spinners. Lyon doesn't do well here. The only spinner that's done well is Jadeja, I think, and Ashwin in the past.
Yeah.
And I think like
too many lefties as well.
All things said and done, right? Like this was not the pitch to play Jack Leach on. This was not the ground to play him on. And England suffered a lot because of the decision to bring him on at a pitch that doesn't suit him, doesn't suit any spinner, against a lineup that doesn't suit him.
Yeah, and then too many lefties in Australia team.
The fourth seamer was Ben Stokes, which ordinarily he's actually good enough to be a third seamer, but when he's coming off of a 4-month layoff where he's played no cricket whatsoever in an Ashes test in the first series in 40 degrees Celsius heat, that's just asking for trouble. And that's exactly what they got. I mean, I think Chris Wokes, Ollie Robinson, Mark Wood all performed admirably. I don't think that you could have realistically asked for any more from them given the circumstances that they were in. But England set themselves up to fail with their team selection. But part of the issue is that what we're dealing with is in England is their batting lineup is also so incredibly fragile that normally if you have deficiencies with your 4th and 5th bowlers, if your batting lineup is good enough, you can at least compensate for it to some degree. But here it's basically just with Ben Stokes being injured, right, and just coming back in again, he's very underdone. The openers, Hamid did fine, but Rory
Yeah,
Burns was a walking wicket. And then that's when you get down to the fact that the only two batsmen that really dug in were Root and Milan. Pope had a couple good cameos, but that's been the story of his Test career. Cameo
Yeah.
here, cameo there, one substantial inning every 6 or
Mhm.
7. Butler, again, good for cameos, but not really as substantial innings where he buckled down. And that's the problem. Nowhere in England's batting, we've covered the problems with the bowling, but nowhere in their batting do you really see
there's no
anyone outside.
solution. There's
Yeah,
no solution, right? I mean, we can't. I don't think in this podcast. I mean, we've talked. I mean, England plays so many test matches this year. We've covered so many podcasts on them. Like usually we could say, oh yeah, dump this guy, bring a new guy in. But there's no options. Like, but I wouldn't even like really change the England batting order for next match. I think you just have to trust the top 7 you've picked, and just hope they score the runs. Because
Yeah.
and also like
It,
Dinesh, you talked about like the pink ball test having the chance, but things I don't. I think if on the Gabba wicket, which is not like it's not one of the most difficult wickets to bat on. There's pace and
no.
bounce, yes, but the
Mhm.
ball moves around probably just for the first hour. You can get
Yeah.
through. It's a belter. Like we've seen this in the
Mhm.
past few years. But if they can't score, if England batsmen can't score in this, I don't know how they're going to do in the day night match. I mean, we saw India got bowled out for 36 in the day night. India have a way better batting lineup. We know how good Mitchell Stark, Pat Cummins, and I mean Hazelwood is out for the match, but for the second test, but we know how good all 3 of those bowlers are with pink ball, and then we've seen how England in their own home conditions struggle against the moving ball. So
Mhm.
I don't have a lot of hope for them. Their
well,
bowling might do better, but
I think their
Yeah.
bowling might actually be a lot better because James Anderson, Stuart Broad are back in for the next test. And Chris Wokes is one of the best exponents of the moving ball. Ollie Robinson's been pretty good. A 4-man attack of Robinson, Wokes, Broad, and Anderson is really not bad. It's
yeah,
quite good. The
yeah,
question for me would honestly be, okay, well, you're going to bring back Broad for Jack Leach.
yeah. I think
Wood is going to come out for Jimmy Anderson.
that's pretty. Yeah, I think Wood can't play 2 matches in a row, and they're gonna need him in the
No,
third and fourth. They're gonna need him at
exactly.
MCG and SCG.
Exactly. And so if Wood can't play the 2 matches in a row, so you've got Wokes and Robinson staying, you've got Broad and Anderson coming in, then the question for me becomes, do you think Ben Stokes is actually fit to play in the 5th test or in the 2nd test as an all-rounder? If he is, that's good. If not, do you need a 5th bowler?
I think no. I think if day night conditions, hope pink ball. I think the forced four. You got 4 like you got your 4 pacers that have good record with either the pick ball or with moving ball. They
Mhm.
should be able to do the job. I think Joe Root can fill in overs good,
Yeah.
well enough. There's a lot of
And
lefties.
Milan is a serviceable leggy as well. So you
Yeah,
have 2 part-time spinners that can get the
yeah.
job done.
Plus Joe Root, I think also Australia have a lot of lefties, so Joe Root it'll be a little easier for him to contain than Jack
Mhm.
Leach. And also I think Stokes maybe hopefully he can bowl a spell or 2, but ideally the top 4 can do the job. But it's still going to be challenging for the top 4 because I think Australia have better players than moving ball than England do. I think Steve Smith, Marnus are way better against moving ball than anyone in the England team except for probably at least Joe Root.
Yeah, I think Stokes is, again, his bowling is going to matter in kind of the same conditions that Mark Wood does, because he's the kind of guy who will charge in all day and give you 85 miles an hour bumpers, right? His bowling during the red ball tests, I think, is going to be much more significant, and I don't think it's sensible to risk his fitness if you think he's marginal during a test that, like you said, England have plenty of bowlers set up to deal with those conditions. But you're also correct that one way I imagined this test going was that England might set up a decent first innings total of 300, 350, and subsequently get smashed around the park because their bowlers are not well suited to these conditions. Australia puts up 500 odd, declares, right? That is one way this could have played out, but clearly
Yeah,
that's not what happened here.
2017 style.
Yeah, this was the England's second innings was the first time, I believe, in Rory Burns' entire test career that he did not take strike first. If he's already struggling mentally against Mitch Stark after the first innings of the series, England are in for a really rough time when it comes to their batting. I can't see another explanation for why you would change that up so suddenly, other than he doesn't want to face Mitch Stark with a new ball.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
I think
frankly,
it's a
obviously, I wouldn't
psychological
either.
thing,
But
but what it reveals is not really comforting.
it's
It's
not.
also
It's really
it,
not.
it's also a big thing with Rory. I think Rory Burns has a serious problem against left arm pace too. I think if you look at the teams he scored against, are teams that like he had a decent series against India. He had a he scored 100 against England when Trent Bolt was injured. Against New Zealand when Trent Bolt was injured, and he had a good series. He had a good Ashes last time in a series where Mitchell Stark played one test. So I think he's a serious. Shaheen Afridi troubled him a lot in the summer 2020. We're seeing Mitchell Stark trouble him. A lot of right arm pitches coming around the wicket, which are something I assume a lot of them will start to do a bit more to him. He has his trigger is a little too much, and he keeps falling over against left arm pitches. Because that start to so I at first looking, I thought he was nervous and he just fucked up. Like he just fucked up his stance, but he's gone out like that a few times. Square up. He's like got squared up leading edges as well a couple times of Bumrah, of Cummins. So I think he's a serious technical issue there. But I don't think there's any. I think he's still the man to do it. He just needs to adapt and hopefully get some runs.
Yeah, by all means, he has the skill and the experience and the temperament you need to succeed in Test cricket. But if he's gotten into this sort of, and I don't like to speculate too much, but if he has gotten to the point where he does not feel confident in his ability to square up to Mitch Stark in the first over, that is a very concerning sign for England, I think, as a whole.
It was very similar to Prithvi Shaw last year. He got bowled second ball, and
Yeah.
I think Mayank took strike second innings.
Yeah.
And you could
Yeah.
kind of tell that was beginning at the end. The problem for England is if you take out Rory Burns, which I think might be under consideration some point during the series, if not this one, who do you put in? Because you don't have a very clear option as a second opener.
The backup opener is someone who was dropped already for Hamid. I think Zach Crawley is the backup opener, right?
Yeah, and Crawley, the problem with Crawley is he's never really been that good at any level. At least Burns has had some serious run scoring in similar pitches to Australia because he bats for Surrey. He opens for Surrey, and he's put up a good record at first class cricket. Crawley hasn't really had that record at any level of the of the game that we can see in stats. And
he's like
other than under 19s, what's really he got to go off of?
Crawley is kind of like Marnus. He got picked off like hope, except he's not fulfilled that hope.
Yeah, but the problem with Marnus is Marnus actually averaged 58 or something with Glamorgan for about a season in some of the toughest conditions. The ball was moving both ways in England.
But but when he made his test debut, before that breakthrough Ashes.
Yeah.
Marnus
was dropped. Remember, Marnus
was dropped,
and he was only brought back once he proved that he could handle the conditions needed. And Crawley's never proven that.
Yeah, I don't think Burns can be. I don't think Burns can. First off, I don't like dropping a batsman after one test in a 5-match series. I think you got to give them 2 tests. I have that same argument for Australia's other opener as well. But I think Burns is going to get another test. I mean, let's be honest. Burns has 3 centuries in his career. And if you look at all the tried England openers since Strauss and Cook, he's actually the best. He's better than all the ones who have been tried before. Adam Lyde, Sam Robson, Molinelli's been tried at that position. Joe Root was tried at that position. So many players have been tried. I think Burns actually has the best record. And he does have the ability to, like, in these conditions, you want a player who can just be at the crease, and you just have to play off the new ball because it gets very easy for batting later on in Australia.
The problem is the only player in England who would be a better opener than Rory Burns, that's the number 4, and he's not getting moved for very obvious reasons.
Well, he's opening anyways, 10 for 2, 30 for 2. It's like,
I think that's less true than it was. I think that would have held serious water a year and a half ago, certainly. But I do think since Burns cemented his place in the team, that has become a lot less true. Joe Root is not coming in against the new ball nearly as much as he used to.
And coincidentally, Joe Root's average has shot up from like 40 that year to 65 this last year.
Yeah.
I don't think it's I mean, obviously he's good against spin. He played in Sri Lanka and India, but also, he just happens to be very, very good. And if you take him out of the direct firing line against some of the best bowlers in the world, 2 down is obviously a better place for your best batsman to bat.
Yeah,
so we agree Burns is not. So Burns can't be dropped. We agree he's a pretty decent opener. He's had a bad match, but
No,
it's
I
not
don't
trouble.
think he should be dropped for the next match. I'm saying that I don't see any avenue to which Burns is going to get better. And I think throughout the third and the fourth test of the series, they might end up dropping him if this continues, because I don't see him scoring runs in Adelaide. And if they give him another chance after Adelaide, I don't see him scoring runs in the MCG.
Okay, I think he'll score. I have a good. He's even against India. He made like 2 ducks, but then he alternated with 50. He's very inconsistent. I think that's a fair thing, but he's not consistently bad, which
Yeah.
I can't say about all of England batsmen. Some of them are consistently bad, like
That's
or are not scoring. When you look at the other players in the batting lineup, I mean, like Hamid and Pope showed they could play in these conditions. We know Root and Milan can play in these conditions. They were the 2 best bats in the 2017 tour as well, and Milan showed that as well.
And I have to wonder if England have been on the search for a quality number 3 for a long time, and it's hard to say this now, because if you look at Dawood Milan's test record, he averages above 40 in Australia and in the 20s elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I have to say he I think was at times pretty liberal with playing his shots and then getting beaten in a way that Joe Root was not. But then to be batting across from Joe Root in 2020 or 2021, excuse me, it's going to make anyone look bad. I was generally impressed with Milan's technique, his patience, and his willingness to hold his approach, as it were, even when he did get beaten. You did not see nerves. You saw a guy who knew how he wanted to play and stuck to it. And I was pretty impressed by that. I think that's important in number 3. So
Yeah.
I don't know if one innings is enough to go on to say that England have found their new number 3, but I am very glad they gave him another opportunity here.
Yeah, I think so. I watched that entire 2017 national. I think I watched every ball of that series, and Milan grew into his stride in that series and got better and better, especially the way he played Lion. I remember he struggled initially,
Yeah.
and then he eventually got a lot better. Obviously, he scored 100 and a few 50s in that series, and he seemed like that same player who did so well in that series. That he did when he scored that 89. I think Milan has a very good game for these Australian conditions. I mean,
Yeah, because he's a back foot player. In England, you can't be a back foot player and score as heavily. But Milan is a very, very good back foot player. In Australia, that's what gets you runs.
right.
The only someone like Root will score runs no matter where, because he's so good off either the front foot or the back foot. That's why he's so good playing spin. That's why he's so good playing pace. But with Milan, although his front foot game is a bit weaker, we saw him struggle, for example, in the seaming conditions in England. His back foot game, especially with his cuts, his punches, are really, really strong. And what that means is, when he faces guys like Hazelwood, like Stark, like Cameron Green, Cummins, right? Like, he's able to handle bounce better than most players and look for runs in those options. A lot of England players don't have those cuts, those drives that Milan does.
Yeah.
And so they get bogged down and they can't look for scoring options to relieve the pressure. So then they end up getting caught behind. They end up playing dumb shots, rash shots to try and up the scoring. Milan doesn't need to do that. I think one thing that's impressed me about Milan, though, is his judgment has gotten a lot better. Which balls to play, which balls to leave. This is a better version of Milan. There's fewer false shots that he's played. He's not getting beaten as much as we last saw. And part of that is down to the back foot, front foot difference, but also part of that's just down to the fact that he's a more mature cricketer.
Yeah.
I think you can tell he knows his back foot game is really good too, because I think the occasions I saw him get beaten were frequently he was trying to cut line to a ball that was a little bit too full to do so.
And also that was late in the day after he'd been batting for 5 hours. At that point, you're more inclined to excuse these lapses in concentration.
Of course, and it's not it's certainly not a criticism of Milan the cricketer. It is I think an observation that's what you're saying makes a lot of sense through that lens. And yeah, I was impressed by the fortitude it takes to say, okay, I got beaten, but I know that what I was doing was approximately the right thing to do, and he stuck to his game.
Yeah.
And yeah, your observation about back foot play is not something I had noticed, but it makes a lot of sense given how I saw him play that innings.
Yeah, I think another thing, we mentioned this in the last podcast. We uploaded a podcast for the India New Zealand on the day one after England got bowled out. So we did a mini review on it on that day as well. And I made a mark that England looked like they clearly looked like they didn't play enough practice matches here. They didn't play any practice matches, and you could tell because they're not leaving on length. In these Australian wickets, if you look at like how Pujara played last year. leaving on length was something he was very, very good at. He left it so much on length that he let it hit him so many times, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a key of batting here in both Australia and South Africa, where bouncy conditions where length balls never hit the stumps. I think Milan and Root did that pretty well when they batted, but the other players didn't seem to do that well. There were a lot of nicks behind and caught at slips that could have been left. You look at Stokes, both innings, balls that he could have left. I think Milan in the first innings could have left it. Butler had a couple where he could have left the ball quite easily. They're not leaving balls on length, even though those don't threaten the stumps, and they're playing a defensive shot, so they're not even looking for a run.
Yeah.
I think that part of the technical play is something you need. You need game time, because that's a big difference of English conditions where the ball keeps a little lower. So that's something that they need to probably look at in the nets, because they don't have a practice match for now.
No.
Yeah.
Well, we're on the topic of sorry, go ahead.
I think the practice match problem is there, but it's also important to note that, at the end of the day, neither team had much practice in the way. And yes, Australia obviously know the conditions well, but the types of mistakes England made weren't really down to, they don't know the conditions. It's down to they don't have any match practice, period. And in that sense, they were on an even footing with Australia. There were no condition-specific mistakes that were being made. Sometimes you'll be, teams come into England, they have no clue how to play the moving ball in the first test of the series. Nothing analogous here. The issue was more just badly underdone team that just had not had any practice matches. Whether they played in England, India, Australia, I have a feeling that the result would have been the same.
Well, I mean, how? Because if you played in England have played 15 test matches this year, and Australia played 1 or 2.
Yeah, but
right?
again, England haven't played those test matches for 5 months.
Australia haven't played for 10 months.
Yeah, again, but at some point the gap stops. 10 months versus 5 months, your body stops being as attuned to test cricket. You need that period of getting back into things. At least some of the players in the Australian team actually had Shield cricket. England didn't even have that. Marnus played the Shield.
I mean,
Travis had played the Shield.
You look at
Cummins.
if you look how Marnus left the ball, just the way he left the ball is something England need to look at. They need to watch that batting.
Yeah.
I also think it's a lot easier to leave balls that consistently coming at 130 versus balls that kind of 140. And you could see this just by watching Mark Woodbow versus Chris Stokes. Mark Wood actually got Australia playing a lot of false shots, especially Warner.
Yep.
Warner, that was not one of Warner's most fluent innings, that 90 plus, but he had him hopping all over the place, and they were playing a lot more shots than they would have felt like it. But that's what extra pace does. It makes you do stuff it makes you react more than actually think of a proper test match game. But instead you're just reacting, trying to hit the ball, and that's what happens. Australia have 3 guys who bowl 140. England just have 1, and it's unfortunate because England do have guys who can bowl 140. It's just they're all injured right now, except for Wood.
Yeah. One of the things to note on this front, right, is it's interesting because in the last few years, Stuart Broad, Chris Wokes have actually upped their pace quite a bit. Broad was hitting 140 regularly at parts of the India series. I don't expect him to do that in Adelaide, but I do think that this isn't the same Stuart Broad that was bowling in 2016. He's a much smarter bowler. He's actually more rapid than he was then. Same with Chris Wokes. Both of them have seen a bit of a boost in their pace to get the extra 5 yards. So it's not enough to even approach Mark Wood or even Pat Cummins levels, but it is enough to take him from medium fast to fast medium. That does matter a little. It's not enough, but in day-night conditions like the Hobart, like Adelaide, it does actually make a difference enough, because there's enough lateral movement to where fast medium is a threatening option, even if medium fast is not.
Yeah, but Chris Stokes was very mediocre this match. Like he didn't look threatening to the batsman at all. His pace was okay. It was like 132, 133. He bowled way too short as well.
133 was Chris Wokes' fast pace when he was last in Australia. This time he hadn't played first class cricket for 5 months.
Right, but his length was his length was off too.
But again,
way too short.
I think that just comes down to lack of practice. I don't
think lack of practice can be an excuse for a dude who's played 50, 60 test matches.
No, I think it can for the first game back. But
Hazelwood, Stark, and Cummins did not play Shield cricket. They were pulled out. You have to remember that they've been playing Hazelwood and all. They've just been playing the T20 World Cup. That's their only match practice as well.
I will say, if you are going to bowl 130-ish, like Jimmy Anderson, you have to be dead on accurate because I think Broad brought it up. He said, we won in Australia 3-1 with a bunch of fast, medium, right arm similar bowlers. The thing that we did was we put up 450, 500 every single first innings. If you're doing that and then you have accuracy, right?
And a world-class spinner.
Yeah, but the truth is, right, like, it's not as if Swan had an absolutely amazing record in Australia in that series. They won that series because they put up 500 in the first innings every single test. And then their bowlers were skilled enough to say, okay, we just need to keep them below 400. Right. And that's manageable for right arm fast medium in Australia. But if you're putting up 300, 250 like England are, you need express pace to get anywhere near a winning total.
Hey, I wouldn't say like even India has express pace. They don't have like Bumrah. They're all 140. Yeah, but
Bumrah hit 148 on the regular.
I wouldn't say on the regular. Bumrah like bowls like within himself.
Umesh Yadav played 2 tests. Umesh Yadav hit 150 a few times.
Umesh Yadav, yeah, but he's like India's like 5th option.
Yeah, but he played 2 tests last time.
Right, but
Shami hit 145. I think there's a
I don't think
difference.
Shami they're all definitely slower than Mark Wood.
Yeah, but they're all definitely quicker than Chris Wokes, Ollie Robinson, Stuart Broad.
Right, but
they're fast enough to be a threat on pace to mislead the batsman's judgment. I think fundamentally that's the thing that's important. I think 145 is plenty to do that.
Yeah, but if you look at India, they have fast, medium, fast bowlers. So that's definitely a key to success there. They have 1 to 2 world-class spinners, and they have batsmen who scored runs. England are missing in all fronts there right now. I mean, they only have one guy who's really good. We're not going to compare Jimmy Anderson and Chris Wokes. Jimmy Anderson's like a top 5 fast bowler of all time. Even he can get wickets anywhere bowling 130, 135 because he's just that good. It's like Ashwin can get wickets on non-turning wickets because he's just that good. But I think Chris Wokes, I would not have picked him this match. I would have had him only play a day-night match. His record with the Kookaburra and with on overseas is pretty poor in both Asia and Australia/New Zealand. I think he had a poor test match. I don't think practice would have helped him at all, to be honest. And I'm a big Chris Wokes fan, but he's not good. He's just not good. This is the Gabba. He's not meant for bowl here.
I'll say I do wish I do agree with you that his length was off. I would have liked to see Wokes pitch the ball up a little bit more. I felt like he went defensive and short a little bit too early.
Yeah.
And we did see there was some swing on offer with the new ball. Obviously, like you said, Lakshya, this is not like the ideal conditions if you're a swinging bowler, but we did see there was some movement on offer. Wokes very quickly went back to bowling back of a length, defensive, try and tie up one end, which, maybe a fair approach. But as you also pointed out, when you're effectively at 3 frontline bowlers, Leach is getting tonked all over the place, and Stokes is not fit, it's hard to justify one of your 3 remaining frontline bowlers tying up an end.
Right. And I mean,
I would have liked to see Wokes pitch up a bit more.
And it's not like Travis Head came out and played a test match innings. He was coming in. He was playing at a 100+ strike rate. I think we should segue to Australia now. I think England's selection, I think Anderson brought her in next match very clearly. Wood will be rested. Leach will be dropped. I think their top 7 will stay the same. I don't see them considering anyone, to be honest.
If we're talking Australia, I do actually, and this may be an interesting choice to start with, but I do want to talk about the other guy who got a golden duck in this match, who I was actually pretty impressed by. Cameron Green. This was the first time I think I've seen him bowl like a longish spell. It was not a long spell, but he bowled, longer than I have seen him do so in the past. He picked up 3 wickets. I was pretty impressed by his bowling at the test level. He's got pace, he's got stamina, and he was doing plenty to trouble the batsman. For a seam bowling all-rounder who I think is if anything a little bit more of a batsman, he really makes the side look a lot more balanced. I was honestly pretty impressed by his bowling.
Yeah, Cameron versus Ben Stokes, really big difference in how the 5th seamer performed, or 4th seamer.
And I mean, he was getting good bounce, good carries, pace was up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but he was injured during that India series. He was restricted to bowl forward spells. He was really playing there as like a batsman who could bowl a bit, even though he's a pure all-rounder. But he had a huge injury and stuff. So he was supposed to bowl 4 over spells only. So that's why he
There's
was
a
not
fun story
effective.
about Cam Green actually. So when he came on the scene, I believe it was Justin Langer. He was watching him bowl, and they said, "No, mate, he's actually a better batsman." And he said, "No way! This guy just took 7 wickets for 20."
You already
And they
said
said,
this. You've already said this story on the podcast. You said this
Yeah,
during the
yeah.
India series.
Yeah, but basically, point is, Cam Green is actually a proper bowler. The thing is, though, with Green, that's actually understated. Is it's true that his injury did hinder him a lot, but since he came back from injury, he's averaged 60 with the ball in first class cricket. It's
Right.
not been impressive, and it's not just load management. It's he's had to change his action substantially, and that reduces the amount of swing that he gets. He's no longer one of those swing bowlers who gets the ball moving both ways at a decent clip. Now he hits the deck harder. It comes into his rib cage. It comes into the batsman's rib cage, right? And he gets wickets through being a bit smarter with what he bowls because he can't necessarily get what he used to with swing and seam. I think his future is personally as a more like a Ben Stokes type of guy.
It
Ben
has to be
Stokes
as a
also
batsman.
started.
It
Yeah.
has to be as a batsman. Australia have a lot of pacers waiting. I think if he can bowl spells and keep the quicks, keep the main 3 quicks fresh, that'd be good. But I think Australia will want runs from him more,
Yeah.
especially because he's batting at 6. He's not batting at 7 or 8 like a
Yeah. No, he's
pace
batting
bowling
as a
order.
proper
But
batsman. So
he's playing as a power batsman, so I think. I mean, yeah, he just played. I can't really judge him off one ball, but
yeah.
it was a pretty bad mistake.
Matthew Hayden basically said, when you come in as a batsman, a score below 10 doesn't really bother you because it's no result essentially up to a certain degree, up to a
Right.
certain point. Duck one time,
He just made a mistake. He
Yeah.
made a mistake, left the
It
ball.
happens.
But like obviously he I think they're still waiting on one big score from him. He didn't score against India either too much. So but I think he'll get a score, especially against I think the 3rd and 4th test match against this England bowling attack that we're seeing. I think all these Australian batsmen are gonna score. I think David Warner finally got some runs. He had a bit of luck, obviously bowled off a no ball, a couple of catches gone down, but he looked pretty solid at the crease. Otherwise, came out a lot of positive intent, especially in his running. I think that was one thing. He kept getting off strike a lot. I think we all wanted Khawaja to be the opener, and then we wanted him to bat at 5. Marcus Harris had a double failure in this test match, but I think if they picked him for the first test, you got to give him a second test as well. Even though I would rather see Khawaja in, I think he's gonna get another test. David Warner, there's like rumors he could be out because of that rib injury that caused him not to open. So Khawaja could come in there, but I think otherwise, if fully fit, it'll be Warner and Harris again. Steve Smith failed against England for once. I'm surprised that was not viral. That was one of the biggest shocks of the century. And then, otherwise, and then put that out of nowhere, Australia were dominating England, then they lost a few wickets, and then Travis Head came out and just scored 100 out of nowhere in one session. Like, I think, funnily enough, I don't know if you guys don't go to Cal, you guys aren't at Cal, so I remember on the group chat, Mohawk was like, Travis had played him as a few balls, and Mohawk was like, Travis is so shit. Travis is so shit. And then I said, yeah, I wish Khawaja was in. Screw this guy. And then we went to Shubham's going away party. And then when we came back from the party, we were only there for a couple hours. We came back, he was on 100, like 80 balls. And then I think Ayush responded like, "Yo, that's these texts didn't age well." But yeah,
I think I started watching around the time that Head was on probably 60-ish, or maybe even before that. And I was thinking about going to bed pretty soon after that, but it did not take him long to get to 100, and I just stuck around. It was unbelievable. I think just the thing that stood out to me was the complete lack of fear in how he played.
Yeah,
he knew he was going to miss a couple times. He knew he had odds of getting out, and he still just went. He came out with a plan. He was going to make a statement. That was obvious.
And here's the thing, though, like he didn't have to play like that. He did not have to come out and play. He did not. Like it was pretty well established that the only selection that Australia were thinking of was him versus Khawaja, which could be completely fine if he wanted to play for himself, play a proper test match innings, and just try to get a 50 to keep your place in the side. Australia at that point already looked like they were going to steamroll England. But the way he came out, he just completely changed it. Not only did he change the event, he just put more damage on all of the England bowlers, put more miles in their legs. And yeah, it was a shocking innings because like it wasn't an innings that you wouldn't think Australia needed it. You just thought he would just have to bat till stumps and then he'll come out on day 3 and just bat a bit more. But yeah, I think now like he stamped that middle order position back as his, and at least for a little while, has put Kawaja away. So
I think Head has always been, he's always felt like a player who had a lot of potential and has never quite delivered on it until now. I think this was, he I think really wanted to show the kind of innings he was capable of playing.
right.
And there was so much raw emotion when he reached his 100. I mean, Rishi, you move your head 6 inches to either side, we'll see it. That was actually very, very moving. You could tell he wanted to say something.
Right.
I think that was extremely, like, leave aside the impact on the match, just seeing that and how much it meant to him and how much he really just wanted to make that statement was very, very powerful.
Right. Reminds me a lot of Sean Marsh and Mitchell Marsh in the 2017 Ashes. They took advantage of, like, I mean, the bowling attack England had was incompetent back then too, and they took advantage of the fact that they were always coming in at good positions and just came in and always scored hundreds whenever they came into bat. And I think I can see Travis Head having a big series now. His confidence is going to be up, and I see him coming in good positions too, because I don't see Marnus and Steve Smith and David Warner really failing that much in the series. So he's always going to come, if he keeps coming in at scores of like 250 for 3, 200 for 3, he's going to have a lot. He's not going to he won't have to worry about the ball moving too much. He doesn't have to worry about spin too much, which is probably his main weakness in the game. And he's going to have a lot of fun batting against the old ball, against tired English bowling attacks. So I can see Travis Head having a big series, which hopefully can translate also for Carey and Green, who also will have the same advantages that he has batting in that lower middle order.
Right, absolutely.
Hazelwood is out for the second test with a side strain. He didn't bowl too much on day 3 because of that. It's a pink ball test, so there's still debates over Mitchell Stark's. Even though his first wicket, he did get a wicket first ball. He did spray it around second innings when running around 4.5 and over. I think his pink ball record will keep him in this game.
Absolutely.
Neeser and Jai Richardson are the 2 backup quicks. Who do you guys think will debut?
I think Jai Richardson, and it's tough on Michael Neeser because he's been the bridesmaid for about 3 years now. But
yeah,
the truth is, Jai is someone that the Aussies have invested in for a long time, and he was really actually ahead of Mitch Stark for a while before his injury. And I think they're going to have him come in because he's probably got the most potential out of all the bowlers in the stable.
right.
And it makes sense to have him in, especially because he offers something very similar to what Hazelwood does. Similar clip, similar movement.
Actually, I think he actually has an extra yard of pace over Hazelwood, right?
Yeah, he actually does.
I think he's raw quicker. I think he's quicker than Cummins and Stark too, right? Maybe not Stark, but he's definitely quicker than.
Not Stark.
Cummins,
low
depends.
140s. I
Honestly,
usually
I've
see him
seen
operate
Pat
low
Cummins bowl
140s.
spells of 145 average. It really just depends on the type of mode that he's going for. I think I've been pretty impressed with Cummins' workload management of all the bowlers, though. Bringing on Cam Green for example, to spell the other Pacers, really smart move. When Hazelwood was injured, he decided to rely more heavily on Green, whereas Tim Payne would have just said to Pat Cummins or Mitch Stark, "Okay, guys, go bowl."
Yeah, I mean, it also helps with Australia do have the world-class spinner that England are missing, right? And Lyon, after he struggled a bit for that 400 wicket, but he stayed patient, kept his economy under 3, and then once he broke through, he is able to just get through the lower middle and the lower order. And I mean, we know Lyon's a good bowler in Australian conditions, and he has a very good record against England. So that's also gonna be a key difference, is that Australia are going to play Lyon every match of the series.
I agree with that, but I do think it's important to note Tim Payne had shown absolutely no inclination to manage his pace bowlers' workloads in a game, whereas Pat Cummins already seems to be doing a much better job of that. And some of that might be Steve Smith too, but Cummins is doing quite well, in my opinion, with that.
Well,
frankly, my biggest fear with Cummins was actually because he's so used to sort of being the workhorse of the attack coming on first change, that he would bowl himself into the ground. I think this is the same reason you wouldn't want to Ben Stokes as captain, right? It's like both of them will bowl themselves into the ground if you let them. So that was my biggest fear with Cummins. I agree with you. I was very, very impressed by his workload management. I think the England innings were a little too short, maybe to see if that holds up. You really need to you really need England to bat a day and longer to see.
Kind of did that in the second innings.
Yeah.
Kind of, but I think things changed so quickly the morning after that I'm not 100% convinced, but I was generally impressed, is I think what I will say.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cummins had a pretty easy first test match. I don't have much to judge on his captaincy. I could have captained the Australia team to beat England too.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
90% of the game is determined without the captain and the coach anyways. The other 10% of that 90% is also generally determined without the captain and the coach.
Yeah, so to recircle back to the Jai Richardson point, I do feel like if you're not gonna give Michael Neser a test debut at the pink ball, this man just like let him play state cricket. He's just never gonna play. Like, poor guy, just like he's just in every Australia squad for the last like 3 years. He didn't play in England, which because he's like a good like English style bowler. If he's not gonna play the pink ball, dude, just let him to state cricket or something.
He's
like
got it.
they're just torturing him. He's like Chad Sayers. Like, they're just like, just let them like dominate there. Because if you're not going to give them a debut, you're just wasting their time now.
Do you think Pat Cummins plays all 5 tests of this Ashes series?
Yeah. He has the last 2 Ashes, so why not this one?
I mean, I think so, but this Ashes is also much more congested in schedule.
Yeah, but I'm thinking with this England batting lineup, he's not going to have to bowl that many overs.
That's also true.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes, not necessarily because it's the right thing for him to do, but because I think the optics of immediately after Tim Paine getting ousted as captain to see Steve Smith captaining Australia on a cricket field again, Cricket Australia is going to be acutely aware of the optics there. It's not maybe the best look.
Yeah. It is worth noting, interestingly, that Pat Cummins, there's a scenario in which Cummins could also probably just, maybe on the 5th test where the games, series is probably wrapped up by then.
Yeah, 4-0.
Cummins could probably, play that test, but not bowl himself that much. Right?
That's
like
true.
It could be, he gives Cam Green more of the third seamer workload, acts more as a fourth seamer himself. They've got space, time to experiment. If
I'll tell you, Pat
batting
Cummins playing as a batting
well,
all-rounder was not on my bingo card. But
yeah, and that's the
I
thing
mean,
is,
but
his
why
batting would need to get a lot better because it's really degraded over the last few years.
Wait, no, Stark's a better batsman than Cummins.
I said
still don't get why Stark doesn't bat. Why Stark bats after Cummins? He's way better than him.
Stark, I think
it's just because Stark's my
Okay,
but like I don't know. Wait, why are we even talking about Pat Cummins' workload? Like, I mean, like he doesn't seem to have any problems yet. He has not missed a test match in years, and then I'd be more worried about Mitchell Stark if he could play all 5 test matches.
I don't think Stark's going to play all 5. I think that's almost guaranteed.
I think Stark will have a good pink ball match like he always does, and then I think he'll get rested for 3rd test.
Yeah.
I think because I assume Jai will have a good debut, and then Hazelwood will be fit for the 3rd. So I think it'll be the 3 right arm pacers, and then Stark might come back for the 5th test.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's what I see. I see Stark playing 3 out of 5. So yeah.
If the series is wrapped by that point, I can definitely see, Cummins, Stark, Neser playing the 5th test, because I think that's a pink ball as well.
Yeah, pink ball. Okay, at least the 2nd pink ball test. If it's wrapped up, give Neser a day. Give my poor man Neser a debut, bro. Like free him from the bench. It's like also I was like, this was a funny question. I think if you guys remember, like last time England come to Australia and got whipped, they always give like a random leg spinner the 5th test. So and then they just get destroyed and then you never see them play again. Do you guys see Matt Parkinson playing the 5th test randomly after England had been destroyed? They're like, we need a spinner now. They play Matt Parkinson. He'll get like 1 for 200.
I really hope not, because I think Matt Parkinson is an extremely promising talent and they need to manage him properly.
Oh, but England have no clue to manage spinners. England have no clue to manage spinners. Like, I mean, I felt bad for Jack Leach. Like, he had it pretty tough. Like, it's tough conditions, lefties, and then after performing so well in Asia, didn't get picked at all in the India series at home and the New Zealand series. He had it really, really tough. And Warner and Labuschagne were just. I've never seen Labuschagne throw away a test 100. And even the way Steve Smith tried, it was very clear Australia just wanted to hit the absolute crap out of him. Marnus would not have gotten out like that to any other bowler, I promise. Steve Smith hit 2 boundaries in the air in the first like 10 balls, which is something I've never seen him do in a test match. So there was like the plan to like hit Leach was just like was pretty evident, and I mean it's a very successful thing. It worked for them against Moeen. It worked against them for Graham Swan in 2013. So yeah, I guess let's go into predictions for next match. I think I've made it clear my prediction is, and I think England's bowling might do a bit better this match. I still think I think Jimmy will have a good match. I think Broad will have a poor match. I don't think he's that good of a bowler in Australia.
Who, Broad?
Broad, yeah, his bowling is pretty average.
He had a pretty good 2013 series. He had a bad 2016 series. But okay, I'll say this. My prediction is
Recency bias for me.
My prediction is Australia wins. But if England is to win, what would it look like? I think for me, England has a chance. I think Australia is going to win. But if England is to win, Anderson and Broad are really going to have to do very, very well with the pink ball. Number one, it's going to have to come down to both of those. And then they're going to need to avoid batting in the night sessions. This is bluntly what it comes down to.
That's all it's going to be. It's going to be if they can get into a position where Australia could somehow bat. I mean, I can see like day one, England gets bowled out for like 200. Then Australia comes out to bat in the night, and then they wreak havoc there. But the problem is England have already been bowled out for 200. That's the only way. And then if Joe Root scores 100, maybe we'll have a chance. But I think C. Smith is going to score big. I don't think he'll fail twice in a row against his favorite team in the world. I think Marnus looks like it's going to be a pretty fun Ashes for him, and I think those two are the only batsmen I can see really scoring this match. I think the Australian bowlers are going to have a lot of fun, and even Nathan Lyon's pink ball record is not that bad, so it's going to be spinners too.
So I mean, we saw how dangerous a spinner can be when it's skidding off the surface a little bit.
Yeah, we saw that. We saw that in India.
Yeah. I do want to add one more thing that I think has to go right for England here is one or both of their openers have to fire. I do think that a lot of this is going to hinge on have we unearthed either a technical or a psychological weakness in Rory Burns against the moving ball? Because if we have, England are in a lot of trouble against Stark and Richardson early on. Stark and Richardson or Neeser, I suppose. I'm guessing Richardson's going to get picked here, but either one of them in combination with Stark opening the innings against a batsman who is already doubting himself against the moving ball is going to be extremely dangerous. And so I think if there are technical or psychological difficulties there, it is imperative that England and Rory Burns start them out. Otherwise, I don't think they have a chance of winning this match.
Okay, wait, last question before we wrap this up. The fourth test is Sydney, right? The fourth test match is at Sydney, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so does Jack Leach at least come back for that match?
I think so.
He must, right?
If there's one match you want a spinner in, you would say it's probably Sydney.
I mean, the Aussies are thinking probably of fielding two spinners.
Yeah,
Sydney,
I'm thinking Swepson comes in for a pacer.
Could come in, yeah.
I hope so. I want to see these guys bowl at test level. Yeah.
I don't know if Leach plays Melbourne as well, but
no. Melbourne's like Gabba. I think a bit flatter, a little less balanced, but still.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah, Sydney, you have to play spinner.
Yeah. All right, cool, guys. All right. It was great having you guys back. Great to see you again, Dinesh.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, cheers. Nice to be here.
Yeah. Yes, we'll see you guys hopefully. Second test match review. I'll be done with finals by then. So Suraj will be back. A few of our other boys will be back. So yeah. Keep it up. Stay subscribed. I'm not natural at this like Suraj is, but just subscribe. Keep recommending our videos out to everyone else. And yep, thank you for watching.